You won't want to miss this. Before we jump in, hit subscribe, like this video, and drop a comment. Trust me, you'll be glad you did. Serena stepped into the grand chamber, the atmosphere heavy with both anticipation and tension. The walls around her were adorned with intricate, glowing symbols, alien scripts that flickered in and out of focus, casting a soft, eerie light. The room was vast, and the ceiling was so high it disappeared into the darkness above, giving the space an otherworldly aura. At the far end of the chamber, the ruling council of the Vantarii, a species that had long dominated intergalactic politics, sat in silence. Serena's mission was simple, at least in theory, to secure a trade deal that would provide Earth with the resources necessary to begin its long recovery. The planet had been left in ruins after centuries of warfare, environmental collapse, and mismanagement. Earth's survival depended on finding new partners, and the Vantarii had the technology and the knowledge to pull humanity back from the brink of extinction. But Serena knew that this was not just a simple diplomatic meeting. The Vantarii were a sophisticated species, their ancient civilization spanning millennia, and their leaders were as cold as the frozen moons they hailed from. To them, Earth was a backwater planet, an afterthought, at best. The negotiation would be far from easy, and Serena was fully aware of the risks involved. Her heart raced as she walked toward the raised platform at the front of the room, where the Vantarii High Council waited. At their center sat Torvash, the High Chancellor, his elongated features and metallic skin reflecting the faint light. Serena had read about him. Torvash was a calculated, pragmatic leader, known for his unyielding stance on interspecies relations. He was known for two things: being highly intelligent and showing no mercy to those who failed to meet his expectations. Serena had prepared for this meeting for weeks. She had studied the Vantarii culture, their language, and their customs. She had memorized every gesture, every word. Her translator device, a small device implanted just behind her ear, would ensure that communication would go smoothly. She had worked with a team of linguists and cultural experts to ensure her speech was perfect. No errors, no missteps. Her only hope was that the Vantarii would recognize humanity's need for their advanced technology and agree to a partnership. But something in her gut told her it wouldn't be that simple. As she stepped forward, she spoke, her voice steady but filled with the weight of the moment. Honored High Council of the Vantarii, I stand before you with deep respect and a solemn understanding of the importance of our meeting today. Torvash's eyes narrowed slightly, and his fingers lightly tapped against the armrest of his chair. Serena knew the gesture was one of contemplation, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the Vantarii were already assessing her, measuring her worth. The fate of my people rests on the outcome of this conversation, Serena continued, her tone unwavering. I come not as a mere representative, but as the last hope of a dying world. Earth stands at the precipice, and we seek your help to secure a future for humanity. A low murmur rippled through the council. Serena watched, waiting for their response. But none came. The silence stretched on, and the weight of their gaze pressed down on her. Serena tried not to fidget, though her mind raced. The translator had been calibrated to perfection, yet it seemed to falter in her moment of need. She had a backup device that could be activated manually, but she had been told to avoid interrupting the flow of speech. The pause lingered too long, and her confidence began to waver. Finally, Torvash spoke, his voice smooth yet laced with a cold edge. You speak of a dying world, human. But what I hear is the desperate plea of a weak species clinging to the last threads of its relevance. What makes you believe the Vantarii would offer assistance to such a fragile race? The question landed like a physical blow, and Serena's breath caught in her throat. She had been prepared for skepticism, but she hadn't anticipated such direct hostility. The words from the translator came through perfectly clear, but they only made the sting sharper. Her mind raced, but she held her composure. Our people are weak, yes, but not without strength. We have persevered through trials that should have destroyed us. We are resilient, and we seek to rebuild. With your technology, we can restore balance to our planet and ensure that future generations do not suffer as we have. Torvash's lips twitched in what might have been a smile, though it was impossible to tell. His alien physiology allowed him to express emotions subtly, with barely noticeable movements. And what, pray tell, makes you think the Vantarii would invest in such an endeavor? We do not aid the weak without a return. We have no interest in your kind survival for the sake of survival itself. Serena's heart sank. She had anticipated challenges, but not this level of antagonism. She fought to maintain her composure. We offer something valuable in return. The knowledge of our species. The biological data we've collected from our planet. We have scientists, engineers, and resources that could be useful to your people. If we are to survive, we must work together. There was another long silence. The other council members, Caldrix, a sharp-eyed strategist, and Lura, the young but ambitious diplomat, exchanged glances. Their expressions were unreadable, but the atmosphere shifted slightly. Serena could feel the slightest crack in Torvash's stoic facade. You speak of a trade, Torvash said, his tone less dismissive but still icy. But what is it that you truly offer? Your technology is far inferior to ours. Your people are on the brink of extinction, and your resources are dwindling. What could you possibly possess that would be of value to the Vantarii? Serena clenched her fists, her pulse quickening. She had not expected to be grilled this thoroughly. We possess knowledge of the ancient ruins scattered across our world. They are remnants of a forgotten era, one that predates even your species. We have unlocked pieces of technology that could change the balance of power in this galaxy. Torvash raised an eyebrow. Ancient technology. His voice was skeptical, but curiosity flickered in his eyes. You speak of artifacts long lost, but how do you know they hold any real value? Serena hesitated, then made her decision. The Vantarii valued knowledge above all else. If she could capture their curiosity, she might have a chance. We've found schematics of energy systems, machines that could provide an almost limitless source of clean power. We don't yet understand them fully, but we believe they are the key to revitalizing Earth's resources. There was a faint stir among the council members. Caldrix leaned forward, eyes sharp as a predator's. Energy systems, you say? Do you have proof of this technology? Serena took a deep breath, pulling a small device from her pocket. It was a prototype, a miniature version of one of the machines found in the ruins. She placed it on the table in front of the council, and the translator's device hummed as the alien machine's holographic interface came to life. Torvash's eyes widened ever so slightly, and Serena could see the shift in his demeanor. For a brief moment, she thought she had finally captured their attention. But the moment passed as quickly as it came. Torvash leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable once again. You may have found a fragment, but you have not demonstrated its full potential. The Vantarii do not make decisions based on half-finished promises. You will need to prove your claim. Serena felt her pulse quicken, but she didn't let it show. She nodded, her voice steady despite the pressure mounting inside her. I understand. I will provide the necessary data to substantiate our claim. We are ready to work together. If you give us the opportunity, we will show you the full extent of what we've discovered. Torvash's eyes glinted, and Serena couldn't help but feel that he was studying her, weighing her every word. We shall see, human. We shall see. The tension in the chamber lingered long after the Vantarii Council's decision to see what Serena had to offer. The harsh silence pressed down on her like a weight she couldn't shed. She had been prepared for difficult negotiations, but Torvash's cold skepticism, and the unnerving curiosity from the other council members, suggested this was not going to be as simple as she had hoped. Serena had heard rumors about the Vantarii. They were known to be ruthless in their dealings, prioritizing their own interests above all else. It was a known fact that they viewed all other species as either useful tools or obstacles to be eliminated. She had seen it in the records, heard whispers in the corridors of Earth's space agency. Yet nothing could have prepared her for the clinical detachment with which they scrutinized her every word. No compassion, no empathy, just cold, calculating logic. Despite the uncertainty gnawing at her insides, Serena refused to show any weakness. She could feel the eyes of the council on her as she stood in the vast room, her mind racing for a way to break through their indifference. If the Vantarii were going to agree to a partnership, she needed to offer something far more compelling than just ancient artifacts or half-understood technology. The stakes were too high. Earth's future depended on it. As the council members murmured among themselves, Serena quietly reviewed her options. She had one more card to play, something that could potentially sway their decision. It wasn't a promise of power or technology, but a deeper, more fundamental appeal to the Vantarii's insatiable hunger for knowledge. Torvash's voice broke the silence, bringing Serena back to the present. "Your offer is intriguing," he said, his tone still cool but tinged with an unmistakable undercurrent of curiosity. "But we are not in the business of saving dying civilizations. Not without ensuring we stand to gain something far more substantial in return." Serena straightened her posture, meeting his gaze head-on. "I understand. But the knowledge I bring is not limited to what you already know. We have discovered a pattern, a recurring phenomenon that spans across galaxies, including the Andromeda sector. A signal, unlike any other, transmitted from a region far beyond our reach. A signal we believe is connected to an ancient race far older than even your people." The council shifted. Caldrix's sharp eyes flicked toward Serena, his interest piqued by her words. Lura, the young diplomat, leaned forward in her chair, clearly intrigued. Serena could feel the momentum building as she carefully chose her next words. "Earth scientists have been analyzing this signal for years," she continued, her voice steady, yet filled with a sense of awe. "The data we've collected points to an intelligence that predates the known universe. This race, if they exist, may possess technologies beyond our wildest imaginings. Technologies that could change the fabric of reality itself." The room seemed to vibrate with a low hum, the air thick with the council's collective attention. Torvash remained silent, but the way his eyes narrowed suggested he was deep in thought. Serena had hit a nerve. She knew the Vantarii had long been obsessed with uncovering the mysteries of the universe, and the idea of an ancient race holding the key to unimaginable power was too tantalizing for them to ignore. Caldrix was the first to speak. "You speak of a race older than the Vantarii. A race that may possess the secrets of the universe itself? Why has this information not been shared before?" Serena sighed inwardly. She had been dreading this question, but she had prepared her answer. "Because we did not fully understand it until recently. The signal we've been receiving is not just a transmission. It's a map, a set of coordinates leading to a place in the Andromeda galaxy, beyond any known star system. A place no human ship has ever reached. We believe it is the source of the signal, and we have the means to travel there." Torvash leaned forward, his interest now fully engaged. "You claim that your species has the capability to reach this location? And what do you expect the Vantarii to gain from assisting you?" Serena felt a surge of hope. She could see the faintest glimmer of interest in Torvash's eyes. This was it. This was the opening she had been waiting for. "If the Vantarii assist us in reaching this location, we can explore the technology of this ancient race together. It's not just about saving Earth. It's about unlocking the knowledge that could advance both our civilizations. The potential for discovery is limitless." The chamber was silent once again, but this time, the silence was filled with the hum of possibility. Serena held her breath, waiting for their response. After what felt like an eternity, Torvash spoke. "You are making an extraordinary claim, human," he said, his voice colder now, but no less sharp. "And yet, you provide no proof. What makes you believe this signal is anything more than an anomaly, just another stray transmission from a distant star? The Vantarii have explored the farthest reaches of space. We have encountered signals, patterns, and anomalies that your people can barely comprehend. What makes your signal any different?" Serena's heart skipped a beat, but she forced herself to remain calm. She had anticipated this objection. She knew that convincing the Vantarii would require more than words. It would require proof. "I understand your skepticism," she said, her voice soft but firm. "But we have more than just the signal. We have found traces of the ancient race's technology scattered across various star systems. It's not much, but it's enough to suggest that they were once capable of intergalactic travel. The signal is a map that aligns with known locations of these remnants. Caldrix's eyes gleamed with something that might have been the faintest trace of excitement. So you have tangible evidence. This technology, where is it now? What do you propose we do with it? Serena nodded, keeping her composure. We propose that we travel to one of these sites. With the Vanteriai's assistance, we can unlock the technology that lies buried there and use it to find the source of the signal. Once we reach the heart of it, we can gain access to whatever knowledge it holds. Torvash regarded her carefully, his expression unreadable. And what do you expect in return for sharing this knowledge with the Vanteriai? What is your true motivation? Serena hesitated. She knew the Vanteriai were skilled diplomats, and they would not be satisfied with vague promises. She needed to lay everything on the table if she was going to make this work. The knowledge we unlock could revolutionize both our civilizations, she said, her voice steady. But more than that, it could change the course of galactic history. The Vanteriai have long dominated space, but the truth is, even your people do not understand all that is out there. The discovery of this ancient race, of their technology, could give the Vanteriai an unprecedented advantage over all others. And in return for your help, we ask that Earth be given a place among the stars, a partnership in the exploration and stewardship of these technologies, a chance to rebuild our world. There was a long pause as the council members exchanged looks. For a moment, it seemed as though Torvash would reject the proposal outright, but then Caldrix spoke. It is clear that you have thought this through, he said, his voice smooth, though still tinged with suspicion. And it is also clear that you are not bluffing. We will need to see proof of your claims. If we are to invest in your mission, we will require more than just your words. Serena's heart raced, but she held her ground. I understand. I will provide everything necessary to prove our case. We have the data, scans, coordinates, and images from the site we've uncovered. If the Vanteriai will help us reach it, I promise you will see the full potential of what we can achieve together. Torvash finally spoke again, his voice commanding. You will be given one chance, one mission. If you fail, humanity's chances for survival will be lost. The Vanteriai do not make deals lightly. Succeed, and we will consider your request for a partnership. Fail, and there will be no further discussion. Serena's heart skipped. This was it. She had to succeed. She nodded, her voice resolute. We will not fail. Torvash's gaze lingered on her for a moment longer, and then, with a slight nod, he stood. Prepare yourself, human. The Vanteriai do not give second chances. The journey to the Vanteriai shipyard was unlike anything Serena had ever experienced. The vast, industrial complex loomed ahead of her, a sprawling network of towering structures and pulsating energy fields. The air inside the Vanteriai station was thick with the smell of metal and ionized gases, the hum of machinery constant in the background. Everything here was built to scale, everything was designed for efficiency, and everything was designed with the assumption that the Vanteriai were the ultimate power in the galaxy. Serena could feel the weight of their presence, their centuries of dominance in the stars, pressing down on her every step. As they moved through the labyrinthine corridors of the shipyard, Serena couldn't help but feel like a small cog in an enormous machine. The Vanteriai were a race of conquerors, explorers, and builders, their influence stretching across thousands of star systems. Their empire was a cold and calculating force, one that had shaped the galaxy in their image. In comparison, Earth was nothing more than a fragile speck of dust, hanging by a thread in the vast cosmic expanse. Her task now was to navigate this delicate situation, convincing the Vanteriai that humanity had something worth their attention, worth their time. Serena knew the mission was already daunting, but now, walking through the Vanteriai shipyard, the reality of it all was starting to settle in. She was about to venture into the unknown, and if she failed, it would not just be her own life at risk, it would be the future of Earth, and perhaps all of humanity. Serena's thoughts were interrupted by the sharp voice of one of the Vanteriai diplomats, Caldrix, who had been accompanying her since her meeting with the council. He was still a mystery to her, aloof and almost dismissive, but there was something in the way he watched her that suggested he was weighing every word she spoke, every move she made. "You are tense, human," Caldrix said, his tone neutral but piercing. "Do you fear the unknown?" Serena glanced up at him, meeting his eyes with a steady gaze. "I fear what the unknown could mean for us," she replied, keeping her voice even. "But fear is a luxury we can't afford right now." Caldrix seemed to appraise her response, his expression unreadable. "Perhaps. But you must know, humans are not the only ones who fear. The Vantarii are not infallible. We too have learned the cost of the unknown." Serena didn't have time to process his words as they continued their way through the complex, but they lingered in her mind, gnawing at her as they reached the launch bay. The sight of the massive vessels in various stages of assembly took her breath away. These ships, designed for long-distance exploration and intergalactic travel, were a testament to Vantarii engineering, sleek, powerful, and virtually indestructible. They were a far cry from the small, aging Earthships that had ventured into space over the last few decades. As they entered the command center, the walls hummed with energy, and the room was bathed in soft, ambient light that reflected off countless holographic displays. The room was filled with Vantarii engineers and strategists, each working with precise coordination. Serena felt a momentary pang of envy. The Vantarii were so far ahead in technology, and their space programs were light years beyond anything Earth had accomplished. "I'm assuming this is where the real work begins," Serena said, breaking the silence as she stood at the center of the room. Caldrix gave a small nod. "You are correct. This is where we begin to prepare your mission. It is not a simple task you ask of us, human. You speak of a distant place in the Andromeda Galaxy, a place your scientists have barely begun to comprehend. We will need to examine every piece of information you have gathered, and then, only then, can we determine whether it is worth the Vantarii's involvement." Serena nodded, steeling herself for the coming hours. She had no illusions about how difficult it would be to gain the trust of the Vantarii, let alone secure their help in the mission. They were methodical, meticulous, and they didn't make decisions lightly. Every piece of data, every scrap of evidence she had, would be scrutinized and tested beyond measure. She turned to the large holographic map that dominated the center of the room. It displayed the coordinates she had provided, pinpointing the mysterious location of the signal source, along with various other anomalies and remnants of alien technology that had been discovered across the galaxy. The area was marked with cautionary symbols and red alerts, warning of the vast unknown that lay in between. "Do you really believe this is the key to saving Earth?" Caldrix asked, his voice low, though the question was laced with genuine curiosity. Serena took a deep breath. "I believe it's our best chance. We've tried everything else: diplomacy, trade, survival tactics. Earth is dying, and unless we find something that can reverse the damage done, we won't make it much longer. This signal, this alien race, it's the only hope we have left." For the first time, Caldrix regarded her with something akin to respect, though it was fleeting. "We shall see." The hours passed in a blur of data analysis and technical discussions. Serena worked alongside a team of Vantarii engineers, inputting data into their systems, detailing every discovery Earth had made about the signal. Her mind raced with the enormity of the task ahead. She had never felt so small and so insignificant, yet so utterly responsible for the fate of her species. The Vantarii were formidable allies, but they would not be motivated by altruism. Their interest was purely self-serving, and Serena knew this. They wanted what was theirs, and if Earth's survival could benefit them in the process, they might help. But only if she could prove that this was worth their time. "Your coordinates check out." One of the engineers finally spoke, breaking Serena from her thoughts. "The site aligns with several known anomalies we've studied in the past. But there's one thing that doesn't make sense." The engineer pointed to a fluctuation in the signal's data, a strange, irregular pattern. "This signal, it's not just a beacon. It's something more. We have never encountered anything like this before." Serena's heart skipped a beat. This was it, the breakthrough she needed. She stepped closer to the display, her eyes scanning the complex data with a mixture of awe and urgency. "What do you mean?" The engineer turned to her. "There's an underlying frequency in the signal, a modulation that suggests the presence of a conscious intelligence. It's not just a message. It's as if it's alive." The realization hit Serena like a punch to the gut. The signal wasn't just an artifact or a remnant of an ancient civilization. It was something more. The question that had haunted her for months now screamed to the forefront of her mind. What kind of intelligence could have created such a thing? And why now? Caldrix had been listening quietly, but now he spoke, his voice laced with concern. "You said this signal was tied to an ancient race. If it is alive, then perhaps this race never truly left. Perhaps they have been watching all along." Serena felt a chill run down her spine. The possibilities were endless, and the stakes had just become far higher than she had anticipated. If the signal was alive, if this race was still out there, then everything humanity thought they knew about the galaxy could be wrong. "We must go," Serena said, her voice firm. "We must follow the signal to its source. We have no other choice." Caldrix turned to her, his eyes narrowing. "And if this intelligence is hostile? What then?" Serena swallowed, but she didn't hesitate. "Then we'll deal with it. Together." The Vanteriai's involvement had just become a matter of survival for all parties. The tension in the room was palpable as they prepared for the next step. The journey ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: there was no turning back now. The days blurred together as the countdown to launch drew near. The preparations in the Vanteriai shipyard had been exhaustive. Every sensor, every ship component, every piece of technology was scrutinized and tested with ruthless efficiency. Serena spent every waking hour alongside the Vanteriai engineers, making sure that everything was in place, doing what she could to bridge the gap between humanity's limited knowledge and the advanced civilization that surrounded her. The ship that would carry them to the source of the signal was a marvel of engineering, sleek, angular, and unrecognizable to anything Earth had ever built. The hull shimmered with a metallic sheen that seemed to absorb and reflect the light in strange ways, and the propulsion system hummed with an otherworldly power. It was a vessel designed for long-distance travel, capable of traveling faster than any ship humanity had ever conceived. Yet, despite the ship's magnificence, Serena couldn't shake the unease that had settled deep in her chest. She had never expected the mission to be easy, but as the days wore on, it became clear that this was something far beyond what she had anticipated. The Vanteriai were no strangers to danger, but they were also not ones to take unnecessary risks. They calculated everything, every move, every contingency. The more they examined the data from Earth, the more they discovered anomalies, contradictions, things that shouldn't exist. Something about this mission was unlike anything they had encountered before. Caldrix, ever the enigma, had remained distant throughout the planning process. He had been present during every meeting, analyzing every detail, but he had said little about the mission itself. He was a creature of logic, and the unknown elements of this signal seemed to trouble him more than he let on. "Do you ever wonder," Serena asked one evening as they stood together on the observation deck of the shipyard, looking out into the vast expanse of space, "if this is all a mistake? If humanity is not meant to survive this?" Caldrix glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "It is not for us to decide, human. What is meant to be is beyond our comprehension. But you must understand, there is no going back from this. Once the ship leaves this place, there will be no return unless the mission is successful." Serena swallowed hard, the weight of his words pressing down on her. This wasn't just about saving Earth. It was about proving humanity's place in the galaxy. It was about showing the Vanteriai, and perhaps the universe itself, that humanity could stand alongside the great powers of space. She had to succeed. There was no other choice. The day of launch arrived sooner than expected. Serena stood in the command center of the ship, staring at the large holoscreen in front of her. The countdown clock ticked away relentlessly, and around her, Vanteriai technicians moved with precision, checking systems and coordinating final preparations. The atmosphere was tense, but focused. Despite the Vanteriai's outward calm, Serena could sense the undercurrent of anxiety. The unknown was just as unsettling for them as it was for her. Caldrix approached, his expression as stoic as ever. "We are ready," he said, his voice carrying the weight of finality. "Your mission is about to begin. What you will encounter is uncertain. But you will not be alone. The Vantarii will provide support, if needed. However, the decisions you make from this point forward will be yours. Understand that." Serena nodded, her heart racing. "I understand." The final moments before launch felt like an eternity. The engines hummed to life with a deep, resonating power, and Serena felt the ship lurch as it began its ascent. Through the viewing ports, the expanse of the Vantarii shipyard faded into the distance, and the cold void of space stretched out before them. The vastness of it was both terrifying and exhilarating. As they traveled farther from the station, the atmosphere inside the ship shifted. The initial anxiety gave way to a profound sense of isolation. This was it, the beginning of the end or the start of something new. There was no telling what they would find at the source of the signal, but Serena had no illusions that it would be easy. Every second that ticked by brought them closer to the unknown. Hours passed, and the ship traveled deeper into the cosmos. The stars outside the windows became distant pinpricks of light as the ship sped through the void, its advanced propulsion system allowing them to cover vast distances in a fraction of the time it would have taken Earth ships. Serena and the crew had settled into a routine, with the Vantarii engineers monitoring the ship systems while Serena reviewed the data they had collected. But then, something unexpected happened. The signal, which had been a faint pulse of energy when they first set off, began to change. It grew stronger, more intense, as if it were responding to their presence. Serena could feel it in the pit of her stomach. Something was different. The ship's sensors began to register strange readings, a fluctuation in the fabric of space-time itself. "Captain," one of the Vantarii engineers said, his voice tight with tension. "We are approaching the source of the signal. But there's something wrong. The energy readings are unlike anything we've encountered before." Serena stepped forward, her gaze fixed on the holoscreen where the energy waveforms danced and pulsed in erratic patterns. The signal was alive, just as they had suspected, but this was no simple communication. It was an invitation, or perhaps a warning. "Prepare for immediate descent," Serena ordered, her voice steady despite the growing unease within her. "We need to get closer. We need to understand what's happening." The ship began its descent toward the source of the signal, a dense cluster of stars that seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy. As they neared, the ship's systems began to glitch, flickering lights, distorted communications, and erratic navigation signals. It was as if the very fabric of reality was being torn apart, bending to the will of whatever lay ahead. And then, without warning, they emerged from the veil of stars, entering a region of space unlike anything Serena had ever seen. Before them stood an enormous, swirling vortex of energy, an unstable singularity, its edges rippling with light and dark, alive with an impossible, magnetic force. "This is it," Caldrix said, his voice low and reverent. "We have reached the heart of the signal." Serena's breath caught in her throat. The vortex was unlike any natural phenomenon she had ever studied. It pulsed with intelligence, with purpose. She could feel it, deep inside, an overwhelming sense of being watched, of being drawn into something ancient and powerful. Suddenly, the ship shook violently, throwing everyone off balance. The vortex began to distort the very space around them, pulling at the ship's systems, warping reality itself. Serena fought to maintain control, her hands gripping the console as alarms blared and lights flickered. "We need to get out of here," she shouted, panic creeping into her voice. "Now!" But it was too late. The ship's systems were failing, and they were being drawn deeper into the vortex. The signal was not an invitation. It was a trap. The ship was caught in the gravitational pull of the singularity, and no matter how much they tried to break free, they were pulled closer and closer to the event horizon. Then, in the midst of the chaos, Serena's mind cleared. The mission had always been a gamble. But now, she realized, it wasn't just about humanity's survival. It was about the survival of everything that had ever existed. The Vantarii, the unknown intelligence, and even the universe itself were all at the mercy of this force. They couldn't escape. But maybe, just maybe, they could understand it. With one final, desperate command, Serena initiated the emergency protocol to transmit a beacon back to Earth. The signal that had guided them here would be their only hope. It would warn humanity and the Vantarii of the danger, and perhaps, it would provide the answers they had been searching for. As the ship was pulled into the vortex, Serena's last thought was not of fear or despair, but of hope, that this mystery, this intelligence, would not be their doom, but the beginning of a new chapter in humanity's place in the universe. And then, as the vortex closed around them, everything went black. The Vantarii shipyard was silent. The signal had ceased. Back on Earth, the message would reach the farthest corners of the galaxy. A warning, a question, and perhaps, in time, a new understanding of the vast forces that shaped the cosmos. Humanity had always wondered what lay beyond the stars. Now, they knew. The journey was far from over.